everyone. Welcome to the Friends and Fiction Show. I'm Kristin Harmel.
I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey.
I am Patti Callahan Henry.
I'm Ron Block.
And I'm Meg Walker.
And I'm Mary Kay Andrews. And if you're wondering why we're all wearing sunglasses tonight,
I was busy trying to figure out Facebook.
All of us. By all, I mean all of us. We're all wearing sunglasses because we're here to launch Kristy's new book. And we all agree that a happier life, the future of a happier life is so bright. We got to wear shades.
Woohoo!
Boom!
But we can't see anything, so.
But we also can't read our script, so.
Right. Way better.
Blind, so off come the shades. All right, everybody. This, despite our lack of an intro tonight, I'm not sure what happened, is Friends and Fiction. 4 New York Times bestselling authors, endless stories to support indie bookstores, authors, and librarians. On this week's show, we are thrilled. You guys, we are so excited to celebrate the launch of Kristy's A Happier Life. The book comes out next week on June 25th, and it is the Friends and Fiction pick of the month for June. And when you pick it up, you are going to be so happy that you did. Your life will be a happier life. We are so excited to speak with Kristy about it tonight.
But first, since it's June 19th, we want to acknowledge today's federal holiday. Juneteenth is celebrated annually to commemorate the ending of slavery in the United States, marking the exact date in 1865 when Major General Gordon Granger ordered the final enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation at the end of the Civil War. Any day we can celebrate our progress and focus on freedom is a good day.
That is so true. And that is so well said, Ron. Thank you. Also, before we get rolling, we wanted to wish our friend and original Friends and Fiction co-founder, Mary Alice Monroe, and the amazing Angela May, a huge congratulations, because their book, Shipwrecked, the third book in the Islanders series, released yesterday. So if you have a middle grade reader or you like to read middle grade yourself, make sure that you check out Shipwrecked.
And if you get our newsletter, you heard all about it today.
That's exactly right. Yes. So that's also just a quick reminder to check out all the fun things going on in our Friends and Fiction community at friendsandfiction.com. And there you'll find our show schedule, details on upcoming in-person events, and links to our bookshop.org page, to the Friends and Fiction official book club with Brenda and Lisa, our merch store, our book subscription box, our weekly email newsletter sign up. We should have a little jingle.
I know.
Make it a song.
We should make a bullet point list.
Yes. So if you want to know about anything Friends and Fiction, and we offer a lot, be sure to check out friendsandfiction.com.
And speaking of things we offer, do not forget our 2024 Friends and Fiction subscription box, which is nearly, I think there's a couple left, Kristy. It's nearly sold out.
Just a couple. It's nearly sold out. So run, don't walk.
Right.
Yep. As you may know, or type really fast. As you may know, Mary Kay's Summers at the Saint is out now, and Kristy's latest, A Happier Life, is coming out next week. When you order the book bundle from our friends at Oxford Exchange, you'll get hand-signed first editions of both hardcovers and some cool, exclusive Friends and Fiction swag that I want, all for just $60, which is a steal. You can even add on the new paperback editions of The Secret Book of Flora Lee and Kristin's The Paris Daughter. And those will come signed too. It makes a great gift for a friend who loves to read. And it makes a great gift for oneself.
Yes.
Definitely. Asking for a friend, and the friend is me. Okay. Did you know all of us, Patti, Kristy, Kristin, and me, plus Meg and Ron, will be live, I'm talking live, in person together next week to celebrate the launch of Kristy's A Happier Life. Yeah, it's true.
So excited.
Yep. This fabulous event, complete with a garden party and panel talk, is happening next Friday, June 28th in St. Louis, Missouri. You do not want to miss it. Find the details and ticketing link on Kristy's website and meet me in St. Louis.
Yep.
Love it.
We also have another live in-person group event with all 6 of us happening this fall, and we want to tell you about it now. because we have a limited time discount ticket offer. So listen up. Join us at the Grand Bohemian Hotel in Orlando, Florida, for a fundraiser benefiting the Florida Cancer Specialists Foundation. We'll have a reception with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, an intimate presentation, and then we'll have book sales and signing. So make sure to take advantage of the Happier Life special by purchasing tickets before this coming Tuesday, June 25th, for $60 a piece, which is marked down from $75. So you're saving $15 a ticket if you order by Tuesday. And please note that the special is named after a certain book that's coming out this Tuesday. Hint, hint, hint. And you know what I think you should do with that extra $15 that you save by ordering early? You should apply it to the purchase. This book, A Happier
Of another
Life.
copy.
You mean this book?
Second copy.
That's such a good idea.
You mean this one?
So seriously, if you think you can join us in Orlando on November 6th, we hope that you will consider hopping over to friendsandfiction.com or to the Florida Cancer Specialists Foundation to find out how to purchase those tickets by Tuesday the 25th.
It's going to be great.
Yes.
Just a quick note, guys, to be sure to stick around for our after show tonight, because that is when we are going to answer audience live questions. So be sure to put your questions in the comments as the show goes on, and we will do them in the after show. So stick around after the credits for that part. And now, before we move on to the main event, Patti has some super exciting and exclusive news to share with us right here, right now, on our live show for the first time ever. Take it away, Peach.
So I have been keeping quiet about my next novel. I haven't even released the title or the cover. So tonight, because this is such a special night for A Happier Life, I want to tell you first, because we always tell y'all everything first, about my new book. It is called The Story She Left Behind. And it is so thrilling to finally be able to talk about it. There's the cover.
We forgot the drum roll. We forgot the drum roll.
She can't talk and drum roll at the same
I
time.
told you about it. So I'm so thrilled to finally be able to talk about this newest book. And I love the title because it has so many meanings in the novel. It's been a few years in the making, and it all started with The Secret Language created by Beatrix Potter. Now, the novel isn't about Beatrix, but she sure did inspire me. And there are pieces of her life scattered throughout the novel. I was also inspired by a true literary mystery. So this novel is about a legendary book, a lost mother, and a daughter's search for them both. It all starts in 1927 when 8-year-old Clara Harrington's magical childhood is shattered when her mother, who is a renowned author who stunned the world with a book written in an inventive language at only 12 years old, disappears off the coast of South Carolina. Her departure leaves behind a heartbroken daughter and a devoted husband, but also she leaves behind a story that cannot be translated because it's written in her secret language. We then meet Clara in 1952, the daughter. She's a children's book illustrator raising her own daughter when she finds out that there might be a hint that helps her unravel this mystery, and it's in England. So with London's most infamous natural disaster hemming them in, Clara and her daughter escape to the Lake District of England, where Beatrix Potter is from, to uncover the truth about her mother and the story she left behind. So I'm really excited to show you the cover. I'm really excited to start talking about it. And now that it's out, you can just watch for all the new information coming. And Kristy, thanks for letting me share your big night
So
with the
excited.
cover.
So
You show
excited
it.
about this new book, which of course it's always fun when we're announcing it because we're like, well, we've been talking about this forever.
I know,
We're
I
so
know.
excited
I know.
about it.
And y'all have seen so many iterations of this novel. Juan, could you show the cover one more time? And then we will start to party and talk about.
It's
I
so
love
pretty.
it. I
Gorgeous.
love the
Beautiful.
colors. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just
So-
makes you go right into the
I
setting.
want to go there.
Well, that's what I want. I want you to want to go to where she solves this mystery. So, but now for the real excitement of the night. I can't wait to dive into Kristy's A Happier Life.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so to kick us off tonight, we have our own rock star librarian and celeb bartender, Ron Block, who has created a very special Happier Life cocktail to share with us, which I will have to say, I don't have one of those here, but Will did just bring me a bottle of champagne. So I thought this would just be a good time to
Pop it
pop
up.
that open, maybe.
Yes.
So
Let's do it.
I love that
our
sound.
bartender shares our delicious cocktail, but as you guys know, you might have seen the signs. I think champagne is also a secret to a happy life.
It
Yes.
certainly is. It certainly is. Okay. So if anybody's been paying attention, I'm loving making these cocktails to go along with the books. And
So
this one
fun.
was no exception. As I was reading Kristy's book, she pointed out a place that we had all been to and we were all together and had a meal at, the Blue Moon Bistro right in Beaufort. So I thought, I wonder if they have a cocktail on their menu that maybe I could work with and try to create a signature cocktail. And so I did. And we communicated with them, and I'd love to present the Happier Life.
I love it.
Oh,
Ooh, it's so
nice.
pretty.
Cheers,
Yes.
Ron.
It's almost as pretty as the cover itself.
Almost. It goes with it, too. It goes right
It
with the
really
cover.
does.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want the recipe?
Yes.
Not
I
giving it to
do.
you.
I do.
You,
Oh.
no, you have to subscribe to the Substack. And on Friday's edition, you're going to get the full recipe with all the ingredients and a little bit of the background. And with a nod to the Blue Moon Bistro for their.
And I have to tell you, I mean, Ron did like some serious homework for this and like a lot of love into this cocktail. And we even like made some call-ins to the bartender for like very specific things. And it's pretty awesome. So thank you so much
It's
for that, Ron.
delicious. It's delicious.
Could you please pass it to me? Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Patty, you'll love it.
You
You'll
will love it.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
Right up your alley.
It's kind of a version of your favorite drink. So
Yep.
Oh, okay.
yes. Well, and I just wanted to thank everybody out there who's here tonight to help us celebrate virtually, of course. It means the world to me that you would be here tonight. And I did want to remind everyone that you can see us virtually here, but you can also come see me in real life on tour for 3 weeks, starting on Tuesday, June 25th. I'll be in North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and of course, Missouri, with everyone on this lovely screen. So I hope to see a lot of you while I'm on the road. My full tour date is on my website at KristyWoodsonHarvey.com under the tour dates tab or pinned to my profile on Instagram. So lots of opportunities to see everybody on tour. I'd love to see you in real life.
Well, I can't wait to see you in a week. In
Yeah.
a week. We'll see you in a
Week.
week. I can't wait to get to Missouri. I love when all of us are in the same room together. That's when the energy really takes off. But let's get going. A Happier Life is a story about a woman who returns to her mother's childhood home of Beaufort, North Carolina, to clean out the house that once belonged to her grandparents. Now, these grandparents died in an accident before she was even born. The house that almost no one has entered in 40 years. So along the way, she makes wonderful friends in Beaufort, sets herself on a new path, and begins to understand that the stories she's been told about her grandparents might or might not be completely true. In a nutshell, that's what this story is about. But Kristy, what would you add, if anything? And then, of course, what is it really about?
Oh, that was such a good summary. Yeah, so I will say just the only thing I'll add about what it's about is we do get to see Keaton's point of view. She is the granddaughter in this story, but we also get to see Rebecca St. James, who we'll be telling you a little bit more about throughout the show. But I love her. She's one of my favorite characters, and she is Beaufort's finest hostess. So her story unravels from 1935 until 1976, and she's kind of a quintessential fancy Southern grandmother to me. So I really loved writing her. But I think what it's really about is a lot of things. One of the things Patti and I just discussed with Emily Giffen in her new book, I think a lot of it is sometimes about maybe like, sometimes we think we're happy, but are we really? And sometimes it takes everything kind of falling apart around us to realize that maybe we're not living the most authentic life that we could be. So I think there's definitely some of that. And I think for sure in Keaton's story in particular, there is an element of how finding out where you came from sometimes helps redirect your path in a new way. And that's definitely the case with Keaton. But of course, it's about a lot of things, but we're going to touch on a lot more of them tonight. So I'll leave you with that for now. But one of the really critical things that Keaton finds in her grandparents' house when she first gets there and starts kind of cleaning out is her grandmother's entertaining notebook. It's a little white notebook that's embossed with Rebecca St. James's Guide to Entertaining. And inside are her grandmother's recipes, her dinner party guest list, her entertaining tips, her conversation starters, everything that someone would need to replicate the fabulous events that she's sort of famous for hosting. So Keaton holds on to this like a life raft because she feels like it's the only remaining link to the grandmother she never knew. So I'm just really interested, do you guys have anything left behind from a family member that you really cherish? So Ron, let's start with you.
Okay, well, I loved reading the parts in the book where the notebook came and things came, and it reminded me of my own grandmother. And I have my grandmother's old potato mashers, but I also have her pie plate and these treasured ruby dessert plates that, as we were kids, we thought they were worth $1 million, and they were so beautiful. But I just hold them close, and so it was nice to connect with Bex through that and remind me of these.
Thank you, Ron. I love that. MK, what about you?
Well, I do have my grandmother's 1940s cookbook that's got gross recipes like tongue and head cheese. But when I was thinking about this, I remembered that, I'm a freak for blue and white anything. And my first pieces of blue and white china were given to me by my mom after my grandmother's death. My parents were stationed in London when my parents were first married in the early 50s, and they sent my grandmother a set of blue willow china. And the only thing that was left by the time I came around was a couple of little teacups and saucers. So that started me down the road to loving everything blue and white.
Oh, I love that.
Awesome. I didn't know that.
Wait, MK, I have to tell you that so the 70s part of this book, there's a lot of like 70s cooking and things like that. And my neighbors next door, I told them that I was writing this book, and Beaufort it's real Beaufort. I really live here, all of that. And my neighbor next door gave me a 1970s Beaufort cookbook. And all I can say about it is think like the grossest 1970s dishes, like all the Jell-O and everything, but with fish because it's Beaufort. So like everything was fish. I was like, I can't even put these in the book because they're so disgusting, but it was incredible to think that people would have made these
What
dishes.
could make Jell-O worse?
Fish and acid.
Let's put some fish in the Jell-O and see what happens.
Ooh.
What about a fruit cake with Jell-O instead? Like I'm imagining all these terrible things.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of recipes with canned cream of mushroom soup.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
for sure. All right, Kristin, what about you?
So there was a book my grandmother used to read to me all the time when I was little. Like I can still remember curling up next to her on her couch in her house in Massachusetts and her reading this book. It was called Gus Was a Friendly Ghost. I still have it.
Nice.
It's an old copy that looks like it's going to fall apart like every time I pick it up. And it has nothing to do with the content of the book, just like Mary Kay is probably not going to make tongue and head cheese out of her recipe book. It's not about the content. It's the idea that in reading that book to me, my grandmother put herself into that book. And for me, she's still there. And I think that's the beautiful thing about books when we share them with people is that they always have a piece of those who have shared them with you still in them. So
Oh, I love that.
that's all to say you should all buy A Happier Life and share it with lots of people because then you live forever.
That's right.
That's right.
Meg, what about you?
So I say this, and I'm not even like a big jewelry or bauble person, but like the most meaningful things I have from my grandmothers are definitely pieces of jewelry. My grandmother on my dad's side had this big chunky cocktail ring she wore, and I have that. And my grandmother on my mom's side had a beautiful diamond ring that I think was made out of a bunch of other diamond jewelry.
Oh, I love that.
In a setting
It's
that
like
she
even
designed
more
herself.
special.
Yeah, and I keep meaning to get it resized to fit my hand because it doesn't currently. but I've decided. Dave and I are married 25 years this year, so before the anniversary, I'm definitely going to a jeweler and having him size that so that I can actually start wearing it. But yeah,
Oh, that's
Love
amazing.
that.
Awesome.
Oh, but have you got the cocktail ring on now? You usually wear it.
no, I don't.
Oh,
I
usually
don't
you
have it
wear
on.
it.
I know. Patty, tell us about yours.
There's a couple things. I was going round and round, but my grandkids were just here and they were having a tea party with it. But so I'm going to say that one of the things I really treasure, and I keep it on display, is this old set of china my mom and dad had. And my mom and dad, lucky for me, are still here. But they moved and they downsized and they got rid of some china. And it's just this really cool old Wedgwood with ships on it, these big red ships. And I have the tea set and a couple huge plates that I only use for special occasions, even though I keep them out. And to see the grandgirls play tea party with it was just really, and like you, I usually don't care about stuff like that, China but it's really beautiful and special, and that they had it and that they bought it and now I have it and now they're playing with it. I don't know. I just think it's really amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Now, what about you, Kristy?
Well, my grandmother passed away. My dad's mom passed away when I was like 3, but I feel like I've always felt like very oddly connected to her. And when I was 10, my uncle, I guess, had been tasked with this, but there was just this mysterious present underneath the tree. And it was a card for me in my grandmother's handwriting. And, she had left her pearls for me and told him to give them to me when I was old enough to wear them. And so that was really special then. It's always been really special. But I actually wrote an article about it for Parade a few years ago. So if anybody wants to read it, check it out. But it's all about, there is a saying that pearls take on the energy of the people who wear them. And so I've just always thought that was kind of like a neat connection, to have her pearls and wear them. And, as we all are sort of saying here, I think our things take on meaning when we assign meaning to them, but it is really special to have that connection to the people that came before us in any way we can get it.
Absolutely.
Now, we love
that.
an origin story here on Friends in Fiction. So, Kristy, tell us a little bit about where you first got the spark of the idea for A Happier Life.
So I feel like we all do this sometimes, where there are all these little things that kind of intersect that all of a sudden we're like, okay, this is a book. But I had a great aunt and uncle that passed away in an unusual accident before I was born. And they were missing for a while. There was a lot that kind of went into this. And this is not in the book. So I'll tell you, I can't tell you much about the accident because I did use bits and pieces of it in the real book. So I don't want to give it away. But they were actually discovered by a psychic and a group of Boy Scouts, which is completely crazy after being missing for like several weeks. So the real life story is obviously like a truth is stranger than fiction kind of thing, but it was something that I just always wondered about. And it's not like in Keaton's story. In Keaton's story, she can't really ask about them or everyone gets very upset. But I used to ask my grandmother questions all the time about them. And my mom would always tell me stories about her fun Aunt Beck and, like all of the, so we talked about them a lot. And so I always felt like I kind of knew who these people were a little bit. But a few years ago, my grandmother said something to me about their death, and a couple of the next day, their son said something to me about their death randomly. We weren't even talking about it. It was two very random things. And they kind of collided. And I had one of those like head to toe chills moments where I thought, what if what happened to them isn't what we think? And also, this is a book. So, and so it was something that I just kind of like sat with for a while. And when I finally decided like, okay, now is the time. I knew I wanted to have this granddaughter come back to this abandoned house and kind of dig through the remnants of her grandparents' life. And I actually, growing up, my neighbors bought in a pretty much like abandoned house that the couple that lived there had gotten in a fight over Thanksgiving. Their whole family was there. The whole family left the house and they never came back. And so I was one of the people to go into this house when it had been locked up.
There must have been some fight.
Right. I know.
Right,
Like, what
right.
were they fighting about? I know. But so it had been closed up for 50 years. We walked in, the entire Thanksgiving was on the table. Like the turkey was,
What?
I think that maybe it was like disintegrated, but it was
Ooh,
petrified. It
ooh.
was like you could knock on it and it was like wood. But like all the dishes were on the table. It looked like basically you walked into someone's Thanksgiving day. The newspaper was on the couch,
gosh.
shoes were by the door, the kids' rooms, like there were toys out kind of like mid-play. I actually remember taking a baby doll from one of the little girls' rooms because it made me so sad to think about the fact that all these toys had just been abandoned and left there. And so anyway, the family bought this house, completely gutted it, turned it into something spectacular, which maybe is part of the reason I love old houses. That just hit me. I don't know. But so I had that experience to kind of be able to add to this. And it was something that was real and it was true and it had happened. So I knew it was possible. And then I live in a really old house in Beaufort, and I've always wondered about the stories that our houses hold. And so that was kind of like the beginning. Like, does the house know what actually happened, to this couple? So it was a lot of little sparks that kind of led to each other. But I'm interested from you guys. Obviously, I believe that our stories that our houses hold our stories, or I wouldn't have been able to write this book. But I'm interested in what you think. Do you guys think that our houses hold stories, or that's ridiculous? Patti, you go first.
Oh, I 1,000% think that houses hold stories. I mean, I live in a 90-year-old house, and I know that parts have been added on. And recently, Pat, my husband, found a photo in the Mountain Brook records that he dug through in the courthouse and found a picture of the house in about 80 years ago when the house was only 10 years old. And it was right now it's a painted brick. It was red brick. It didn't have the side part of the house I have now. The same tree was in the front yard, but yet, of course, very tiny. It now, comes over the house in a canopy. So I just think about everybody who lived here, every drama or trauma. I think about what was said inside these walls. And I think about it a lot. I think that houses hold stories, and that if we're quiet enough, maybe there's a little bit of that energy left in them. I do know about the past 3 or 4 families, and I know they were all very happy families, and that makes me happy.
Right. Wow.
How about you, Ron?
Okay, well, I going back to grandmas, because grandmas are so amazing and wonderful and full of memories. But when we were kids, we would go back to the house where my grandmother grew up. But it wasn't just the house she grew up in; it was also the house that her mother grew up in, and, it goes back several generations. And we'd spend time. And this was, and I can say it because I'm one. But this is hillbillies. It was literally on the hill. But we have so many amazing memories there, and so many stories about music playing and cooking and things in that story. And I often, this is kind of woo-woo, but I actually dream about the house and being in a house. And it kind of helps me sleep sometimes to just think about going through, because there's so many, like you said, happy memories there and so much fun times and great people that I knew.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so cool. Mary Kay, you're up.
Well, I totally know houses hold stories because I made a career out of it, but about writing about it. But I was thinking about this today. All the houses that we bought and lived in with our family, we bought them sadly because the couple that we bought from were divorcing. But I believe that every house we have lived in, we have made it. We've sort of, I hope, banished that unhappiness. We've had family events and parties and laughed and cried and drank and brought babies home and celebrated that. So I hope every house that we've lived in we've always tried to leave a house when we've had to leave it or chosen to with happy memories that we take with us and that we hope we leave behind.
Yeah, and I love the idea of that.
Yeah, we knew the 2 previous owners of our house. We were friends with them. So Patti, same thing. We live also like Patti. We live in a small town where everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. And people still call our house the so-and-so's house. Oh, you live in the kitchen. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, I've lived in this house for 13 years. But no, you live in the kitchen's house.
Yeah, our
I give
old
up.
house, I think our old house that we've been out of for 25 years, all of our neighbors who've known us that long say, oh, the Trocheck's old house.
Yeah.
Oh,
We hadn't been there in 25 years.
Yeah.
that's funny.
Kristin, what about you?
I think there's something to be said for the idea that the house holds the story as long as that chapter hasn't closed yet. So, with the idea being, just to take Mary Kay's example of a divorced couple leaving a house, like, I feel like maybe it holds the energy that they left with until their lives resolve, and it's not a pain and a sadness and a heartbreak that they're carrying forward. You know what I mean? Like, I think the house lets go of things as we let go of things, and as we close the chapter on things.
I like
that have
that.
gone
Kind of like the
wrong.
idea that if once a ghost is gone, it's gone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is. Like, it's like the
Yeah.
ghost of something unresolved until
Yeah.
it's
Don't
resolved.
give it the energy anymore.
Yeah. Right, Meg, what about you?
Well, I'd like to believe what Kristin says, because the house
I like
that my family and I live in now, there's some weird stuff that happened here before we owned it that we found out only after we moved into the neighborhood. And I'd really like to think that bad juju has been replaced by our boisterous family fun. And I like what Mary Kay said too about imbuing your house with
Yeah.
your family's joy and
I love
and
that.
all the stuff that happens in a family. And I think so. My parents' house, the house they built it. My stepdad was a builder when I was in high school, and he built the house, and no one else has ever lived in it but us. And for as long as we hold on to it, Mom, I know you're watching, so I don't know when they're selling it, but we have long called it the best bar at the Jersey Shore because
Oh my God, I love that.
there's no lines, no cover, and it has a great deck and a big kitchen, and we can all
And I've
gather
been-
around the counter.
Yeah, I've had a drink at that bar, and Patty has too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So yeah, lucky people who get to get that house after our family's done with it. That's for sure.
Crazy. All right. Just a reminder to all of you out there as we are talking about questions, make sure if you have a question for Kristy, to put it in the comments. We'll be taking them live at the end of the show. So, Kristy, we see half of the story through the eyes of Rebecca St. James, Keaton's departed grandmother, who's known as Beaufort's finest hostess. So, Beck's story takes us from 1935 until that fateful night in 1976, when we begin to understand what actually happened to Rebecca St. James and her husband, Townsend. And along the way, as we mentioned, we get a glimpse into Rebecca St. James's guide to entertaining, her cherished notebook full of all her best entertaining tips, recipes, and more. So what was the inspiration, Kristy, for this character? And can you tell us a little bit about what type of research you had to do for her?
Yes, absolutely. So, the name Rebecca was actually my great aunt's name, who kind of inspired this story a little bit. And everyone called her Beck. I don't know where the S came from, but I don't know, something about Beck's, the way it looked on the page, I just liked better.
I love the way it
So I
sounds,
like
too.
to think
Yeah, I
that
like
there
it.
was,
That's
a little bit about her, in this book, like sort of the stories that I knew about her and the fun that she had. But there's a lot of my grandmother in this character too. I mean, she was definitely, an amazing hostess and really held dear, like kind of all those like core values that I think Rebecca St. James really has, that like, your purpose in life is to make the world better for other people. And that is the most important role that a person can play. And, I think she really embodied that and kind of lived that. And I think Rebecca St. James has that. Now, there are major differences in them, but I think at the core, there is a lot of my grandmother and Rebecca St. James.
Oh, I love
So
that.
I love that you included this. Can I just say, like, I feel like it I don't know, you did it without cynicism and it doesn't come off corny. It's just
No.
lovely. It's truly lovely.
Yeah.
And,
Well, when I say it out loud, I'm like, are people going to think this is really dumb and not want to read the book?
no, not at all. It's so old-fashioned in the best kind of way.
It's so
And-
nostalgic.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminds you
That's what
of
I
a
wanted.
simpler,
I wanted
like a
it to
simpler
feel
time.
nostalgic. Yeah.
And I love that Beck's like owned it when, there's a part in the book where she's like, this is what I wanted and this is my purpose. And,
Yeah.
I don't know. I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kept thinking how authentic it really was, and it really made me
was.
want to be a part of all of those gatherings. I just
Yeah,
thought
and I
that
mean,
it was just
some
so
of
real.
it's, yeah, some of it is very old fashioned, but of course it is because it came from an earlier time. But like, it still really on their face, all of the tips are very valid and still true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that with the tips and the nostalgia, I love Kristy, and it sounds like we're all saying this, how you included Bex's hostessing tips as chapter openers. How did you come up with that concept? And did you make those up, or did they originate from some source material?
So I started that at the beginning. It was like the very in the very first Rebecca St. James chapter. There I put this hostessing tip, and of course, every one of the tips, it's a hostessing tip, but it's a life tip. It's something that applies to life in a broader way. And so I did it in the first couple chapters, and I thought, why would you do this? Because now you're going to have to come up with like 100 of these. This was so dumb. So I really toyed with the idea of, like maybe getting rid of them, but I really liked them, and I felt like they really were Bex. And this is gonna, I don't even know how to say this in a different way, except that I didn't even think about any of them. Like as I was writing, they just like came into my head. And there were even a couple, like there were some times that I would write the chapter and then write the tip after. But so I think again, like they all really, really reminded me of my grandmother.
So sweet.
You've written, Kristy, about a fictionalized version of Beaufort, North Carolina before in the Peachtree Bluff series. But with this novel, you don't pull any punches. The book is actually set in real Beaufort with actual places named and the setting described in vivid, gorgeous detail. How did you decide to make this leap? I mean, I've always thought I would never write about the small town I live in just because I don't want people putting their nose in my book and saying, oh, you got it wrong, because I would get it wrong. So what have your neighbors and business owners in town reacted to so far? And are the doghouse dames for real, by the way?
I want to hang with them.
Well, so I have to start with the doghouse dames because I did not think of, so for everybody who hasn't read the book yet, the doghouse dames are these 4 women in their 70s and 80s who just really take Keaton under their wing, and they just decide she's their project, and it's great. So it's great for her that she is their project because they have so much wisdom and they have so much to teach her about. She thinks about her grandparents, which is true, but also about life and her next chapter and all of that. So, the book isn't out yet, so I haven't gotten a lot of like reaction from locals yet, which I'm excited to. The only thing I've said this that I kind of regret is that, this is not Kristy's Guide to Beaufort. It does not have every single one of my favorite places in this book. It is not my, it's not my guide to the town. So there were definitely some of my favorite places that did not make it into the book just because they didn't really fit into the narrative of the story. But I think I have to be honest. I think the reaction is going to be mixed because only because I think I've portrayed Beaufort really well, but I think not everybody wants Beaufort to be written about, which I'm kind of one of those people. I'm like, no, we don't want people
secret.
to
Don't bring people here.
But you'll never get another dinner reservation at the Blue Moon.
I know.
That's
right. That's right. So, but I hope that people will think I did the town justice. I really tried to. And I felt like I had to live here for a few years before I could really credibly write a book about Beaufort. So it was really fun to do. And Salt and I worked pretty hard today going around town. He's going to be presenting his favorite places in Beaufort, and I'm going to be presenting mine on social media. So if you follow me on Instagram, I will tell you Salt's favorite places mostly deal with the places that give him treats. But that's a lot of places. So, yeah.
That's a shocker. Well, speaking of Salt, I know a lot of authors put some of their own DNA into the characters, but in this book, you did have a dog that bears a striking resemblance to Salt. So even down to the same name. Did you have fun writing Salt into your book? And has he demanded a cut of the royalties yet?
Well, I mean, he should definitely get a cut. So it was really fun. I've written a dog before, but not like a dog with a personality. Like I just, I feel like I've written a dog as like a throw rug, but I've never written like, a dog as like a personality in a book before. And honestly, the dog was a little bit of a literary device because I have this woman who's coming to this town alone and she's going through this house alone and I needed her to have someone to talk to. And the dog might not talk back, but it works. I did not ever want a dog. Salt is my first dog ever. And as y'all have probably garnered, I am obsessed with the dog. I love him so much. So he's kind of immortalized here in the book. All his bad behaviors are written right here in these pages.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, as Meg alluded to earlier, coined earlier, has he been practicing his pawtograph?
Photograph. Yes. He's actually coming to an event with me, one of my Beaufort events. It's Saturday night, June 29th, and he is coming. Salt is going to be there signing pawtographs.
That's
so
nice.
cute.
Love it.
Okay, quick follow-up. Now, speaking of people that Keaton needs to talk to and helps occupy her time, Anderson is the little boy that lives next door, and he's really similar in age and interest to somebody else that's very near and dear to you. Was that deliberate? And is Little Will aware of his literary doppelganger?
Little Will has not read this book yet, but he can actually. Like I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, this is it's a very clean book. Like there's really not much that he can't read in this. I started writing this book when he was 10 and Anderson is a 10-year-old little boy. And the first scene I wrote in this book is the scene where Keaton meets Anderson and thinks that he could potentially be a ghost. But there are a lot of similarities between Anderson and Little Will. So I will look forward to him reading it. He did have to fact check some sections for me about like the Big Rock fishing tournament and some things like that I don't know about that much, but he's pretty good at. But yeah, there's a lot of, even Anderson has a very like sarcastic personality like Little Will. So there's a lot of similarities.
We love Anderson.
Well, a happier life in this novel, it really refers to different things for different characters. Like for Bex, it's a commitment to how she couldn't have had a happier life, right? And for Keaton, it's that she's really searching for a happier life. Things are not going so great for her when we first meet Keaton. And in the most unexpected of ways, how learning from Bex's lived experience helps Keaton find exactly what she's looking for in that happier life. So I thought it'd be fun for us to each talk about one of our happiest bookish moments or memories. So I'll go first. For me, there'd be so many. And when I look back on my publishing career and like all the time spent with all of you, but I think the day that we decided to launch our business, Tandem Literary, was like, I'll just never forget it. Because in 2008, when the economy blew up, there was a massive wave of layoffs throughout publishing. And I was, I fell prey to that, as did my current business partner. And it's a shock when it happens. But I remember that winter, I was just taking meetings. Anybody who would talk to me, who I admired in the industry, I'd go talk to them. And I met Bob Miller, who at the time worked at HarperCollins. And he said, you should start your own business. Why are you coming to all these houses and, looking for another marketing director job? Start your own shop. And I was like, what? Who would hire us? Like, could I make enough money? And he gave me so much encouragement. And I went out on the street, and it was a frigid day in like January of 2009, and the wind was whipping. And I called Gretchen, who's my business partner, and I said, Bob Miller says we should start our own company. I think we should do it. And she's like, all right. And like, we literally decided like on the street that day. And like everything from there on has been great. And it's so cliche to say the worst thing that happens to you will turn out to be the best thing, but it really was. So for me, that's it.
That's true.
Gosh,
That
who would
story
hire
never
you?
gets old for me. I've heard it 10 times and I still love it every time.
Oh,
I love that story.
Such a happy ending. Ron, what about you?
Okay, well, I think I've told this story before, but I still, whenever I think about this kind of a story, this is what comes to mind. And I've been pretty open that I grew up in a house that didn't have books. Reading wasn't all that valued because there was so many other things to do. But I remember going to middle school library and kind of like look and see what those things were on the shelf. And Mrs. Wilson started book talking to me. She was telling me the story about From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basily Frankweiler, which is one of my favorites of all time.
Mine too.
And it just pulled
Mine
me
too.
in. Yes.
Love
It
that
just
book.
pulled me in because I was like, I want to escape. I want to go live in a museum. And so that was my first thing. And I just really, it grabbed me and it just started this whole path.
Yeah, and who wouldn't want to go sleep in that big bed at the museum? And,
Right.
Yeah, it's a great book. Gosh, I have so many, but I think obviously we all do. But I really think that going to MKA's house in Tybee, like at this sort of that beginning, like terrible part of the pandemic where we had just decided to start Friends in Fiction and we all had to test and quarantine and do all those things to like come together and try to figure out what we were going to do and if we were going to make this a real thing. And it was such a like bright, it was like a moment in the world where everything felt so desolate. And then when we were together, there was such energy in that moment of like, we're going to create something and it's going to be amazing. So I think that's one of my best for sure.
Love that.
And bam.
Here we are.
Here we are.
4.5 years later.
I
Our 222nd episode. Y'all, I
Wow.
think that there's like some a good omen in that.
So there's
Good,
some
yeah.
good juju with 222.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
All right,
I like it.
your turn.
Gosh, I mean, I'm sitting here rattling through so many memories, especially the last 4 years with all of us. And I want to say some of the happiest bookish moments have been when all of us have gotten together with all the readers from Friends in Fiction. But I'm going to bring it down to this one really kind of quiet moment that wasn't very public. Because for me, the release of The Secret Book of Flora Lee was just, it was a book I wrote in secret, one that changed a lot of things for me, one that existed because of all of you. And my agent's assistant, her name is Jessica Herrera. She's my co-agent. And she wrote a poem to the night before Christmas, but it was the night before pub. And she wrote this whole poem for the release of Flora Lee. And that somebody would take the time to do something like that was so touching that I keep looking over there because it's on my bulletin board. And I was really touched by that. So.
It was incredible.
Was good.
How about you,
MK,
Mary?
what about you?
Well, jumping in the way back time machine, I think about, I wrote my first book in secret, and I had an editor. In fact, he was senior vice president at HarperCollins. He was interested in it, but it didn't fly. So the second one, I basically scammed a trip up to New York. I scammed a writing assignment to go up to New York to talk to him. And he said, he had called and said, let's talk. Can you come up to the city? And I'm like, yeah, let me just see how I can get someone else to pay for it. And I scammed to do a story for the Atlanta paper about how they put together the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And I did all my research. Then I snuck over to 10 East 53rd, which was where HarperCollins was at the time. And I went in to meet him. And he said, well, first of all, we want to offer you a 2-book hard soft deal. I went, wow! And I didn't.
Good memory, all right.
Yeah, I didn't have. I had an agent that I talked to, but she had come back from the London Book Fair with pneumonia, I think.
Oh.
So he said, "Well, I know Sally. We'll call her and we'll talk." And I just floated out of there. I called my husband and had a good friend from my newspaper days who was working then at I think he was working at ABC News, and he met me and he took me to the Monkey Bar, which is an iconic, which is a very iconic New York publishing watering hole at the time, and had a drink, and that is a very happy memory that I've never forgotten.
That's amazing.
I love it.
Kristin, what about you?
Before I started writing historical fiction, my first 6 books were not historical, and they didn't do particularly well. Like, I was just kind of, very mid-list. I was just chugging along, but nothing was doing that great. Then I sold The Sweetness of Forgetting, which was my book that came out in 2012.
I love that book.
Thank you. And it came out in Italy, I believe, slightly before it came out in the US, and it looked like things were lining up for it to do well. Like, it had sold in a bunch of countries, like the buzz was kind of building, but like sometimes the buzz builds and it doesn't go anywhere. And that I had never had anything happen in my career, right? And I had been invited to Italy to go and do like a little tour there. And I remember being in the airport to leave for Italy, and I got a call on my cell phone from my Italian editor saying, "You're on the bestseller list with our biggest paper in Italy." And I was like, oh my gosh, like it was my first bestseller ever, like in another country, but like my first bestseller. I was sitting in the airport lounge on the way to Italy to like hopefully launch this book that was hopefully going to do well. And I just remember having that feeling. I was with my husband to be, I think, and I remember having that feeling of like, this feels like it could be the beginning of something that could change my life. And it was just, I just remember that one moment that felt like the tipping point.
I love that. And I love that I've never heard that story before.
I know that. I was trying to think of something to share that I've never shared before.
I love that. What a great feeling. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Time for a lightning round. So in addition to a happier life cocktail, what do you think is the secret to a happier life, Mary Kay?
A good marriage and a happy family.
Oh,
Love it.
I love it too. Patti?
I would say really intimate, beautiful, close friendships and relationships, including your family. But I think every study has ever shown that, and it pans out in our own life, right? Yeah. Making sure that relationships are solid.
That's great. Okay, Kristin, you're next.
I think doing your best to bring light into the world in ways both big and small, because the more light there is around you, the more light you get to be a part of, and I think life gets bigger and brighter.
Yep.
Oh,
that's really cool. Okay, Meg.
I'm going to go with laughter, because with that, you can get through a lot of bad stuff.
I love
It's true.
That's true.
That's great.
Okay. Is that everybody?
No, Ron.
Oh, me.
Ron,
So
yeah. Ron.
I'm like enamored with what you all said. I want that to be my answer. But really, lately, things change a lot. But I think lately for me, it's patience, which is a word that I think you have to give yourself and you have to give other people. And that kind of keeps things really calm and helps you enjoy all the other things that you all said.
Let me know how you do that.
Yeah.
It's a
You
practice.
pass that on
It's
when
a
you
practice. It's a practice, not a...
So
Kristy,
I
you
would,
have to answer.
yeah, I would say everything that all of you said, obviously, and then like a great book. A
There
great
you
book
go.
is really a secret to a happier life.
I wish I knew one.
exactly.
I wish I knew a
Yeah,
book that would
exactly.
fit
For
that.
example.
That would be the secret
That's
to a
it,
happier
Juan.
life.
Oh, have you? I don't know of anything coming.
All right, everybody. I'm the fundraiser who comes up at the end of the dinner event, ask for money. So I'm here now reminding you to rush out and pre-order your copies of A Happier Life, which has already been named a Joanna Garcia Swisher Book Club pick, an Indie Next pick, an Our State Magazine Book Club pick, a Chico's Book Club pick, a
Holy
Brenda
moly.
Novak Book Club pick, among others. It's been named a must-read of the summer by Southern Living, Katie Couric, Cosmopolitan, Reader's Digest, on and on. And what I'm saying is, buy the book, damn it.
Yeah.
The perfect place to get your copy is in the Friends and Fiction shop on bookshop.org. You'll be getting it at a discount and helping to fund our show, all while supporting our beloved independent booksellers nationwide. If you love Friends and Fiction and enjoy the content we produce for you all year long, ordering A Happy Life from your bookstore or online retailer of choice is a great way to tell Kristy thank you. In other words, I cannot say it often enough. Buy her book, damn it.
There we go.
Right.
And we also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram and join our Facebook group, which is nearly 250,000 members strong. When you visit friendsandfiction.com, you can stay up to date about everything we have going on. And you can sign up for our weekly email newsletter, which is chock full of bonus content. For example, a cocktail called the Happier Life.
That's right.
All right, Kristy, can you remind everyone out there how to connect with you? And also, where can everyone watching and listening find you online and on book tour?
Yeah, so everything's kind of aggregated together at KristyWoodsonHarvey.com. And also I'm on Instagram at Kristy W. Harvey and Facebook Kristy Woodson Harvey, and I'm posting loads. I also just started a little broadcast channel on Instagram where it's only for subscribers. It's really fun, and I've been showing little sneak peeks of getting ready for tour, and I'll be posting in there like just behind the scenes things about book tour that I'm not posting other places on social media. So if you're someone who like really wants to know the nitty gritty details of book tour, follow me over there. But I just want to thank everybody out there for tuning in tonight, for being a part of the Friends of Fiction community, and especially to all of you on the screen. You guys are so amazing. You're so supportive. I appreciate you more than words can say. And it means a lot that you would take your night to be here with me to celebrate. And so everybody out there, when you read A Happier Life, let me know what you think. I really hope you love it, and I hope I get to see you on tour.
And be sure to tune in next week for when Ron and Patti will welcome Chris Whitaker to talk about his new novel, All the Colors of the Dark. That show will air on the Friends and Fiction Facebook page and YouTube channel on Wednesday, June 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it will be posted to our podcast for your listening pleasure on Friday, June 28th.
So thank you to all of you out there for being with us tonight. We will see you next time, and make sure to stick around for a quick after show where we will be taking a few live questions. So goodbye for now, everyone. See you in 30 seconds.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. You can join us every week on Facebook or YouTube, where our live show airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram. We're so glad you're here.
That was so fun.
Wow.
So fun.
Kristy, do you feel like the book is now like launched into the world?
I do. I'm in that like weird space where I know you guys all get it, where you're almost like just you're ready for it to just come out. You're ready to go on tour. It's like you've kind of done all the things. Like I'm packed, Will's packed for camp, like everything's ready. And I've done all the big things. Like I've written the essays, I've done the interviews, and now I'm just like spinning my wheels, you know?
Yep.
Yep.
We do. Like, how many times can I check my Amazon rank today?
Yeah.
It's also, it's like, I feel like it's like right before you have a baby. All my babies were late. And it's like, come on, seriously?
And
I'm
you're, like,
ready.
nesting,
Right. That
washing
the
more
crib
clothes.
the crib is put together, the whole thing.
So
Well,
funny.
there was some commentary about the typing sounds. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm not usually on the screen. And when I enter the questions for everyone that I see coming in the live feed, I was trying to do
Oh,
everything
gosh.
at once.
No, who cares?
But
Yeah.
yes, so somebody said, I hope she's typing our questions. And I was
Oh,
like,
and
That's
you
good. Yes.
that's exactly what I was
Hilarious.
doing.
see, Meg, this is why they said you should start your own business. Because look, you never stop working. You're just like,
Never.
She's working while answering. She's typing and answering questions at the same time. Well, I think on that note, you should ask the first question.
All right. So Carrie Soderman wants to know, this is a really sweet question. What will you leave behind that you hope your kids and grandkids will treasure besides your books?
Oh, that like makes me want to cry a little.
Oh,
Gosh. I don't
well,
know.
your
What
house.
do you guys think?
I have been to your house, Kristy, and it is so full of gorgeous
It is.
things. There is no shortage.
You know,
All
do
of
you know
them,
what I
really.
do think about? Like, I do think forget anything inside, because I'm sure, like, you know, in 20 years, everyone will, you know, everything changes. But in writing this book and having this house and this book that literally had been in the same family since the 1700s, or maybe it was the 1800s in this book. But I think the idea that like maybe your house stays in your family for generations is one of the coolest things I can think of. So
That's amazing.
I would
I
love
love-
for that to happen. I don't know if
Yeah.
it will, but I think
I
it would be
loved
great.
that piece of the book where there was this pull to keep the house and the history and what it meant to everybody.
Yeah.
It is a cool idea to generation after generation of
Well,
the same family keeping that house.
The neighbors beside us that I was talking about, so they own the house next door and they owned this house. And these two houses have been in their family for like 150 years or something.
That's so cool.
Wow.
So we were the evil ones that came and bought their house. I was just kidding. They sold this one and they kept the other one. But I just think that's so cool.
My next door neighbor, he grew up. He's older than I am. I think he's maybe in his 70s. He grew up in that house, and then he raised his family in that house.
Wow.
So, yeah, they've been in that house for consecutive 75 years or more.
Wow.
One of my best friends from home just bought her childhood home. Like her parents had sold it. And then she moved back to Salisbury and bought her childhood home. And the crazy thing was, like, I almost wish she had done it before I'd written this book, because walking back into that house, it was like this flood of like things that I had not thought about in 20 years. Just like,
Yeah, memories live in those walls,
I mean,
don't they?
it was
crazy.
It was crazy. All right, what about you guys? What do you want to leave behind?
Oh, gosh. This is your night. You don't want to hear it.
Yeah, you don't want
Okay.
I think she.
Well, if
she
nothing
wanted
comes to
hear it.
mind, you don't have
Another live question, Meg.
Oh.
Okay. Who wants to, somebody else ask a live question? Ron, you ask one.
I don't have access to that.
I was going to say, we don't
Oh,
see
you don't have it.
Oh,
Meg's going to
I-
have to ask them.
I put him in.
Okay, I was going to say, I see him. I can grab him also.
Okay, grab one.
Okay, Susan Seligman, and I credit to Meg. Meg's the one who pulled these questions. I'm just reading Meg's busy work.
But where are you reading it? Why am I so
I
lost?
put him at
So
the
she
bottom
put
of the
them into
script.
the script. Yep.
Oh.
Oh.
So Susan Seligman asks, the name you choose for your or says the names you choose for your characters are so unique. How do you find the perfect names? I'd like to hear the answer to this too.
That's really nice. Thank you. So for this book, it was several different places. So Keaton was a name that I absolutely loved. And that was actually the name of my protagonist originally in Under the Southern Sky. And my editor, for whatever reason, just didn't love the name. I loved the name. And so my protagonist for that book ended up being Amelia, which I also love. And that was a great name.
I love that.
But Keaton was just always on the back burner for me. And so when I started writing this one, I was like, oh, this feels like Keaton to me. So I'd been saving that one for a long time. Bowen was an MKA special because it came from the graveyard in Beaufort. I was walking salt through the graveyard in Beaufort, and it's a very old graveyard, and there was like a family like plot, and the last name was Bowen on it. And so I was like, okay, I love that. I'm going to use that as the name. Anderson is actually one of my best friends from growing up's little boys' names, and I just thought it was cute. What about everybody else? I don't think everybody else was just kind of like, oh, that seems like a good name.
Well, I have a perfect follow-up question that came in on YouTube from Robin Shelley, who says, there is a Rebecca St. James that's a well-known Christian singer. Not that more than one person can't have the same name, but I just wondered if you had heard of her and the name stuck in your subconscious.
So I have only heard of her because Fact Checker at Gallery Books was like, she is, I think, Robin, I could be wrong, but I think she's Australian. Is that correct? So we decided that it was like maybe not enough of a conflict that we were worried about it. And I was so attached to the name Rebecca St. James after having used it for 18 months that I was like, I can't change her name. I mean, unless I absolutely have to. I mean, if it had been like Julia Roberts, like I probably would have changed it, you know? But I was like, this woman is Rebecca St. James. She's back. I can't change her name. Just can't.
That's a good name.
So
And I feel like you call her Bex the majority of the time too.
I do. Yeah, she's
Differentiates.
Bex in the book.
Yeah.
She's Bex. Yeah.
So I had a character name in my new book that comes out in March. And Meg Walker hasn't read it yet, but she was at the first meeting about it. And they said, don't you know that name is the name of a very famous porn star?
What was it? You have to tell us.
And I was like, what?
I was dying. We were at this lunch and she said that she named the character Jenna Jameson.
Oh, no, even I know that.
Not even I know that.
I didn't even know that.
Like,
I'm getting
Oh, that's
embarrassed
Laura.
for you.
Excellent.
I snorted.
They're like,
I was
you're gonna
like,
have
oh my
to
God.
change her name. And
Patty's new book, Jenna Jameson Does the Lake District.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Now her name is Philippa, but yeah.
Whoops.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I see two more on here that I'm gonna answer because I really like them, and then I'm gonna wrap up and let you guys go. But Sharon said, how did you decide on the specific years for the two timelines?
I want to
And
know that too.
I do too.
so this is hilarious, y'all, because I decided on 1976 because, well, one, that's the year my husband was born, so I thought that was kind of fun, but also because it was the bicentennial. And in the original draft of this book, the fact that it's the bicentennial really plays into the story. And then that just totally disappeared. Like it ended up being something that I like edited out of the book and it didn't matter at all. But the original reason was because it was the bicentennial. So, but also I wanted it to be the 70s in general because that was like the timeline of, my great aunt and uncle's disappearance. And I thought it was a timeline I hadn't written about before. I thought it would be an interesting kind of time period to research in Beaufort. And just a little like heads up for people who read the 1935 to 1976 parts, like anything that you read that's like very specific is real. So like the guy breaking the world record is real. And the bands coming in from the Coconut Grove Club in New York, like that's real. So all of those things, I tried to really, use my newspapers in my research, and like the characters obviously aren't real, but the places are real. The events are real, all of that.
And you do a really good job in your author's note, sort of explaining all that and going through it piece by piece, and like what you change. If you change something, why you change something.
Yeah. Because like I did change the Old Homes tour. It's actually gone on much longer than 1976, which is really cool that the tradition's been going on that long. And Nancy said, do both salts have similar adoption stories? So they do not. I borrowed the adoption story. I'm not going to tell what it is because you can read it later, but I borrowed the adoption story in the book from Kristin. He gave me the idea for that. Thanks, Kristin.
I did?
Yes, you did. I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
Kristen looks like, do you mean me? Is there another Kristen?
different
You have that look on your face. Like,
You know because you texted me about it, but I'll tell you later. Because I forgot to tell you.
Kristen's
I was
like,
oh,
what?
but no, my salt belonged to someone else, and he was not compatible with some of their other animals. So,
I remember.
yeah. So my salt was just not compatible with some of the other animals in the household. And so somebody said, oh, you take salt. And I did not want a dog. I never wanted a dog. I was not ever going to get a dog. And my husband came home and said, oh, but this puppy really needs a home. And I was like, fine. I don't even know what baby. We all fall. That's right. And he's like, Will's 10. He needs a dog. He doesn't have any siblings. How can he grow up without a dog? I always had a dog. He tells me all these sob stories about Pooh and Honey, his labs growing up who were always with him. And
Okay, stop, right?
Right. And I was like,
That's funny.
fine, we'll get this stupid dog that I'm not cleaning up after this dog. I'm not taking care of this dog. I'm not walking.
We're not going to get the love of my life.
Yeah. And the dog is my soulmate. And here we are.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Kristy, when we got Andy his first dog, now he was a teenager, but when he was a kid, he always wanted a dog, and we didn't have a fenced backyard. And also some of us in the house had pet allergies. And so at one point he looked at me, he said, Mom, even the boxcar kids had a dog and they're orphans.
Andy,
God.
I mean, a literary guilt trip you had to
Really?
Even the orphans have a dog.
The orphans have a dog. Little orphan Annie had a dog.
Even Annie had Sandy. I mean,
Oh.
And now
All right.
Kristy has salt. We did the thing last night where we all stood in the circle and called him. Y'all, he went to me every time. Like, Will had the leash. Somebody had treats. That dog, I had nothing. That dog went to me every
Right to you.
that's
I love that.
awesome.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Wait,
All right,
so
well,
there's
I
one
love you
more
all.
really sweet question on YouTube I feel like we should answer, because Ginny Adams, who's watching on YouTube, says, My friend, she loves Beaufort, North Carolina, and she said there are some truly beautiful people there. My friend and I needed to book a hotel, and we asked a lady walking her dog where we should stay, and she offered us her home. So Ginny would
Whoa.
like to know, how did Kristy how did you and your family move to Beaufort and choose it as your home?
Wow. Okay, I'm going to tell you this super briefly. It's going to be
Yeah.
the Cliff Notes version. So, first, I'd never been to Beaufort until I was like 19, and I came here for a party with some friends. And I did not even know my husband at this point. We drove over the old Beaufort drawbridge, which sadly does not exist anymore. And we pulled onto the street, and it was like all the white clapboard houses and like and I was like, I'm going to live here. This is my town. I'm going to live here.
Wow.
And I didn't totally mean it. Like I just said that, off the cuff. And then Will and I started dating probably 2 years later, and his dad actually lived in Beaufort, was retired here. And so we would visit, and then we got married. And a few years later, we bought a house here and totally spent a couple years redoing it. And then probably 5 years after that, we decided we were going to move to Beaufort for 1 year while Will was in preschool. And we were going to have this like lost year at the beach that we were always going to look back on, this like moment in time. And then we never left. It's like a gradual progression, but I'm always like, be careful what you put out in the universe because it is coming for you.
Yes,
I love it.
I hope so.
Well, dare I
Yes,
say,
hopefully.
Beaufort for you is the secret to a happier life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank
It
you.
really is.
Yes, it really is.
Well,
Well, guys, thank you.
congratulations, Kristy.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So
These
excited
are-
about this.
Thank
I love this.
you.
Wonderful.
So well done. Such a great book. I just
It
love it.
is.
See you in
Can't
St.
wait
Louis.
for everyone out there to read it.
Yeah. See you in St. Louis in just a few days, you guys. I love you all. Thank you for
Yeah.
taking your night to celebrate. All right.
Good night,
Love you.
Love
everyone.
you all.
Good
See you
night.
soon. Good night,
Good night.
everybody out there. Thank you.